let's get into our first topic of the day, man. We are officially 9 days away from Super Bowl 59 live at the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans. The Kansas City Chiefs going for a three-peat, and the Philadelphia Eagles trying to win their second championship in franchise history. Now, I want to go over the top 5 storylines heading into Super Bowl week, and we're going to start with number 5. My number 5 is obviously the Eagles getting their lick back. We all remember 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57 in Arizona, the Chiefs got back on the mountain after a 3-year absence after winning against the San Francisco 49ers for their first championship. This game was very, very good. The Chiefs, not the Chiefs, but the Eagles even had a 10-point lead late in the third quarter. They made some mental mistakes, turned the ball over a couple times, and we all know the controversial pass interference, a holding call on Bradford, which pretty much gave the Chiefs the game at the end. Chiefs win off of Harrison Butker field goal 38-35. You can argue that Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field. This Eagles team, they've got a lot of the roster still the same, some different parts. Obviously, the biggest difference is Mr. Saquon Barkley is on the team. Got Jalen Carter, who they drafted, Nolan Smith, who they drafted. There's no Jason Kelsey, even though I'm pretty sure there will be enough shots of him during that game that you would think he's still on the damn team. But this is really something where we're going to see, can the Eagles do what the San Francisco 49ers were not able to do last year, and that's get their lick back. I think we're going to be talking about the Eagles a lot in this show because I really want to give love to that franchise. This is their third Super Bowl appearance in the last 8 seasons. If they win in 9 days, they'll be 2-1 of that. And just everything they built over there, from the ownership, Jeffrey Lurie, to the general manager, Howie Roseman, from the drafting, the scouting department, just everything. They have been a model franchise. And I don't think that everybody said it's going to be a boring Super Bowl, which I don't understand why people would say that. Philadelphia is, they don't play the way the Chiefs play, but it's something where I would not be surprised if they found a way to win this game. And I think it's going to be very competitive, and it's going to mirror the game 2 years ago, man. So that's my first storyline is, can the Eagles get their lick back? Dante, what do you think about the Eagles, making their way back here after a 2-year absence and them trying to get their lick back from the Chiefs?
I think it's a testament to quality roster building. This is something we looked at when we saw Ian Cunningham come over to the Bears, and the fact that he helped build this roster, and they, I think another thing and this is really more so me and a lot of other people who want to see quarterbacks play a certain way. We really disrespect Jalen Hurts. Like, I know he had his spurt where he was turning the ball over a lot, but he is a good quarterback. He's more of a game manager than a guy who's going to go out there and win the game for you. But a lot of us act like he can't throw the ball, and that's simply not true, So I think with everything they have in place, I don't think they're going to get their lick back. But I think you have a situation where this team is going to be around for a very long time. And this year was just a testament to how good this roster is. Because you got to remember, for a lot of the season, the talk around Philadelphia, you would think that they were like a 500 team. I mean, they ran off like 8 or 9 straight, and people were just talking about is Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, is their relationship beyond repair, and all type of shit like that. Meanwhile, Saquon's, like we said, damn near setting the rushing record. So, I mean, this is a team that they've been good for a while. We've seen them go through quarterbacks, but still be able to compete, still compete in that division, still make the playoffs. And like you said, now here we are trying to get your lick back 2 years after losing to Kansas City in the Super Bowl. They're gonna need a hell of a game from that defensive front four, which is possible. I think we've seen Jalen Carter be unstoppable at times this season. I know he doesn't have the heavy sack numbers, but from the interior, we don't really need that. The way he changes the game, and you can watch and see him get double teamed and demand double teams damn near consistently. That's something that matters, and so it's gonna be interesting to see how Kansas City deals with that. But as far as the Eagles, bro, I think this is something where we really just have to tip our cap and acknowledge that this is a well put together football team across the board, and they're gonna be here for a while.
Bang, man, what's your take on the Eagles, man? Them getting here, after not even making the playoffs last year, had the division in their hand the last month of the season, choked that up, coughed it up to the Dallas Cowboys' paws after losing both of their coordinators, something Detroit's going to be going into, and then getting back to the stage there right now. What do you feel about their run getting here and their chances?
Um, this is the Eagles is the case where when you have conversations about like sports radio or sports TV and how they jump out the body a little bit too quickly. When you look at the beginning of the season, they wanted Nick Sirianni fired. People was talking about Jalen Hurts and shit. Um, Folks was wondering if they spent too much money on Saquon. I don't even want to say that they struggled at the beginning of the year. It's just a lot of people was looking for shit to say. But then you see the streak that they went on. You see how dominant Saquon Barkley has been bringing back the running back position. They still don't give Sirianni credit. Oh, Kellen Moore is his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator is Vic Fangio. Like, you got to remember, he lost both of his coordinators to head coaching jobs. He ended up getting, what was that? What's my man name who used to be the defensive coordinator for the Bears? I forgot my man
Vic
name.
Fangio.
No, the other dude, the one that Sean Desai.
Oh, yeah. Sean Desai. That was last year.
Yeah. You know, you gotta. That didn't work out, and stuff. So you end up going to get experienced coordinators, and now look where it's at. Like, he's done what other people has done, in their careers. So it's just a case of where you just got to be careful about how you put down teams, because just look at what they have right now. And when you look at it, this team is better than the team that went to the Super Bowl. Like, the guy that should have been the 3-tech for the Chicago Bears, he is unblockable. They're younger, they're more physical. Their defensive backfield is better. The running back situation, of course, is better. Their offensive line is still tight. AJ Brown, like Smith, tight end situation, Goddard. Like, this team is a team that can compete against any team in the league, of course, because they're in the Super Bowl. But they can compete and keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs just like they did a couple of years ago. This is probably, I'll say that this might go down as one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand the bitching. I haven't understand a lot of bitching from fans this year about, oh, this is a bad matchup. Like, look, man, I know we all like Jaden Daniels, but y'all didn't want to see that nigga get embarrassed in the Super Bowl. Cut the shit. Like, nobody outside of the DC area wanted to see that. Let's go to my fourth storyline of the year, and this stays with the Eagles. Mr. Saquon Barkley, fresh off 2,000-yard rushing season. He had 13 rushing touchdowns. Man, is he making the playoffs? Won multiple playoff games in 1 year. Of course, we know it's won his first playoff game 2 or 3 years ago when they had that comeback against the Vikings, the game that gave Daniel Jones generational wealth. But this year got multiple wins, and now he's here in the big stage, and he is the driving force behind this Philadelphia Eagles offense. They play a real old school style of ball that works, and he's just been unstoppable. A win here to win his first Super Bowl. My storyline would be he will be completing maybe the greatest single season by a running back in history. Now, I know a lot of people want to nitpick about the 2,000 yards, or, you know, Eric Dickerson played 2 less games and blah, 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 blah. I get all that. I know people are going to try to put asterisks on his accomplishment, but there's still a big accomplishment. Eric Dickerson did not win the Super Bowl that year when he did the run 2,000 yards. He's not going to be MVP. They probably going to give him Offensive Player of the Year. I think that if the NFL MVP voting was actually on who's the most valuable player, then it should go to Saquon Barkley, because he changed these broke niggas' life compared to where they was last year. But I think if he wins a championship this year, and it's because of him, he might not be MVP. He's got a chance to be Super Bowl MVP, which we haven't seen a running back win that in a couple years. I think that would be great, and I think that would put him in the pantheon of players who had dominant years but could take him over to number one to be the best season we've seen top to bottom by a running back. Dante, do you think I'm off with that take?
No, not at all. I think Saquon is somebody who's really showing people that the running back position is still extremely valuable. And the crazy part is, because Saquon made what? I think he made $14 million this year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Saquon, I'm looking at the list. He would have been If he made $14 million, Saquon would have been the 28th highest paid wide receiver this year.
God damn.
We know how undervalued that position is, but somebody like Saquon is showing you that when you are elite at that position, it can change an entire offense. And they've been able to rely on him when the passing game has struggled, when the passing game has been inconsistent. Just get the ball to Saquon, and he's been going crazy. And so I think it's something where it's hard for me to give somebody the greatest season ever when you don't break certain records, certain plateaus you just got to hit for the sake of it being the greatest season ever. But given his playoff run, and if he's able to lock up Super Bowl MVP, then I could see how this is easily one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen from a running back. But I think more than anything is just showing people that we've allowed this term, the market, to really shape how we pay people as opposed to their production in the offense. When Saquon was 70% of the Giants' offense, they gave Daniel Jones $40 million and didn't pay Saquon. And, just shit like that. It makes no sense. But it's a hell of a year. And I would hope that, it starts to show people that, certain running backs, those elite running backs, should be paid accordingly. I think a guy like Bijan Robinson is probably loving what he's seeing from Saquon because he's been a monster his first couple of years. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets a couple checks that most running backs don't get. So I think it's definitely going to go down as one of the best seasons ever from a running back.
Bang. Will Joe Schoen be throwing up when he sees him possibly holding up the Lombardi season? What do you think it will rank all time if he gets it?
My wife will laugh at me when I say this. Joe Schoen is going to be like me when I took some zinc on an empty stomach. I was shitting and throwing up at the same goddamn time, and she was laughing at me as I was doing it. Yeah, that's Joe Schoen right now. Like that's been him all season long. Like, God damn. It's one thing to let go of Saquon Barkley. It's another thing to do it in front of the world. Like, you will never be able to live that down. Your kids are looked at as a better GM than you are right now. As far as greatest running back season of all time, yes. I'm trying to think, and maybe Scott, Tay, y'all are when Terrell Davis won, when they won that Super Bowl, was that the year he rushed for 2,000 yards?
I don't. Are you talking about the 98, the first one?
Yeah, I think that was the first one or the second one he won.
I'm gonna check right
2,000 yards.
I'm gonna check. You just keep talking. I'm gonna Google this.
But that's the one that jumps off the top of my head when you say greatest running back season.
It was 98.
It was 98 season. Yeah, it was 2000.
Yep. That's the one that rolls off my head when I think of greatest Super Bowl seasons, running back seasons of all time. You rush for 2,000 yards, you win the Super Bowl. I think he won MVP that game. He would have to eclipse that, and he has the potential of doing it if they win the Super Bowl and if he wins that. And then when you look at the running back position in general, when it comes to sports, for Washington Commanders fans, y'all might remember Timmy Smith. Timmy Smith was the Super Bowl MVP when the Redskins won the Super Bowl in one of them joints in the 80s. He rushed for over like 200 yards. It was basically the best rushing performance at the time, the best rushing performance by a running back in NFL history. And we ain't hear from him again. I want to see something like that from Saquon. I want to see Saquon put this Super Bowl on his back. That's what would make that the greatest running back season of all time. Make up for that 100 yards that they didn't allow you to get that record, and break one of those records at the Super Bowl.
And I think that TD won the Super Bowl MVP that year too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I got a funny story about TD, but that's a summer session story, so we're gonna keep that on there. Let's go to my next storyline in Super Bowl 59, and that is the officials. There's one thing that people been talking about when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs all year is the referees. Now, I've been on record saying that I think officials across sports have been bad. It's just the last year I've seen some terrible calls across all sports. But the NFL officiating has been really, really bad this year, to the point where a lot of people are thinking that this is rigged and that the NFL just wants the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because they can have a chance at a three-peat and have Taylor Swift there. And I get the sentiment. I'm probably one of the few people who don't think that Josh Allen got a first down last week. But I think the NFL is not a league like the NBA where they need a big big market team or a big market storyline in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl and the NFL sell themselves. You can't convince me that less people are going to watch if this was Buffalo Bills versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a big storyline right there with the Bills losing 4 in a row in the 90s with the Super Bowl, with Josh Allen getting them back to the promised land. Josh Allen finally beating Patrick Mahomes. That's a big storyline. I don't believe there's some meeting that they have to say we need to get the Chiefs into the Super Bowl. I just don't buy that. But this storyline is going to be something that's going to continue to be talked about, especially if there's a big play in the Super Bowl that swings towards the Chiefs' favor. It is not a good thing for the NFL PR-wise that game, the AFC Championship game, was almost a week ago, and people were still talking about that first down play, that fourth down play that a lot of people thought should have been called a first down. So I'm really interested to see how the refs are going to call this one. Are they going to let them play? Is this going to be a more tightly contested game? And is there going to be a play at the end? Because as much as I will give the Chiefs respect, and as much as I say I don't think that it's rigged, I do believe there are some calls they get over their run that have had perfect timing. You know, if you look at the Super Bowl a couple years ago, where you have that call on Bradbury, and Bradbury, all of a sudden you just bring Harrison Bucker out and they kick the field goal. I didn't like that play 3 years ago. That took not 3 or 2 years ago that let them get to that game when they should have lost Cincinnati again, but they called the unnecessary roughness call out of bounds when Patrick Mahomes got pushed out of bounds in the AFC Championship game. I just didn't believe you should have called that at that point. So I really want to see how they're going to handle this, especially with all the people having eyes on this. Dante, what do you think about the refs, all the heat on the Kansas City Chiefs, and do you think this is going to be a big factor heading into the game?
It's not going to be a big factor. It's going to be one of those things where people are going to, look at this with a microscope, and there's going to be one play that really has no effect on the game that they say, see, you see how this happens? See how it keep happening? This is something that happens all the time with teams that we don't like. We always find a way to say, that the refs are helping them. The league needs them to win. The reality is, the NFL is like Vegas. The house always wins. There is no losing for the NFL. So the idea that they needed to help Kansas City get back and try to get this three-peat, I think that's silly. And it's just more of an issue that we have now that fans are able to, express their feelings together in this group think, and we have social media, and we've cultivated these fan groups the way we have, and fan is short for fanatic at the end of the day. So you have a lot of folks who are really just sitting there hell bent on finding some type of conspiracy. You got the folks who think that all sports are rigged and that Vegas is in on it and the leagues are in on it, and I'm here to tell you firsthand, if you really think, no disrespect to athletes, if you really think that these niggas would be able to hold a conspiracy down of that magnitude, you're insane. But it's something that I'm just not going to be concerned with at all. But I think overall, the game with these two teams, the game will be good enough to where it won't really be a factor.
Bang, what you think about these refs, storyline around the refs, and do you think it's going to be a big thing?
Man, it's always, being honest, there's always a storyline around refs, no matter what. It's just magnified, as we get older. But shit, people been taught, look, and back in my day, Ed Hockley swole ass was going to goddamn Super Bowls and shit, and people been wanting this shit. I don't think it's going to be a factor in the game. I think this game is going to be won and lost by the trenches more than anything. Now, I will say this: could there be a situation where it's late in the game and a call could shape the game? A call could put somebody in field goal position or something like that. Yeah, that's a possibility, but that's a possibility like that in every other game that you'll get. So I'm not necessarily worried about the refs here. I'm just waiting to see a great game.
Definitely, man. Let's go on to my second storyline heading into the week, and we about to get into some of these GOAT conversations, man. Patrick Mahomes is not only going for the first three-peat in NFL history, he is going for his fourth Super Bowl championship, man, which if he wins, that'll leave him 3 behind the GOAT Tom Brady, who went 7-3 in 10 Super Bowl appearances. As it stands right now, Pat is 3-1 in his 4 Super Bowl appearances prior to this one that's coming up next Sunday. I think that it's a thing right here when it comes to Mahomes' pursuit of Tom Brady. Because I think at this point, that's the only thing he's going to be chasing. Like, you already done won multiple MVPs. You already done won multiple NFL and Super Bowl championships. It's can you chase the ghost that is Tom Brady? This is why, to me, it's going to be so hard for him to do that. Because unlike a LeBron James, where he didn't have a head-to-head matchup with Mike in his, why he's playing. He retired literally months before he was drafted. Literally like 2-3 months before LeBron was drafted, Michael Jordan retired for the final time. These two have gone at it before, for a couple years before Brady ultimately retired 2 years ago. And they've met in very big, important games. In Pat's first AFC Championship game in the 2018 season, the Patriots beat the Chiefs. There was a controversial call that happened in that game too, but that one was for New England. For those of you who think that the Patriots that the Chiefs were the only one getting calls. And then, of course, we know the Super Bowl, the COVID year, 2021, which is the only sport that actually had people in the crowd despite COVID. That stadium was at least half full out there in Tampa, Florida for that Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And they beat the brakes off the Kansas City Chiefs. So he has 2 losses against Tom Brady. And that's going to be something that I feel kind of conflicts this debate. I'm not saying there's not a world that he can't surpass him. I just think he's going to have to do a lot more. I don't think he has to win 8 rings, but I think a 3-peat will help him. But if he can get in the 6 range, 5 to 6 range, and he's got a 3-peat, I think that helps him a lot. And even people who don't like Tom Brady, I think at the worst, it can become a Michael Jordan, LeBron James conversation where really it just depends on what person you ask on who they think is the GOAT. Dante, what do you think about Mahomes' pursuit of Brady? And do you think there is a path here for him to universally be looked at as the greatest player of all time?
I mean, that's certainly a path, but I think one thing we have to acknowledge about those that we consider the greatest of all time is the longevity. For him to have, if he 3-peats, that'd be 4 rings in 6 years, right?
Yeah.
4 rings. That would be 4 and 6, which is incredible. But at the same time, Tom Brady had 2 different, eras where he won multiple Super Bowls. So I think this definitely cements him, in my opinion, as probably the 3rd greatest, 2nd greatest. You still have an argument with Peyton. I know a lot of people are quick to just toss Peyton out of there, but you got to think Peyton was elite for a very long time. He just doesn't have the hardware and the playoff wins. But I think for me, he's still up there as one of the greatest I've ever seen, just the way he controlled the football game. But in terms of, 4th quarter moments and just a guy, Pat is a guy that when you watch him play the game, something's going to happen. Like those are the elite quarterbacks. Those are the one that rarefied air where it's like, yeah, every time this guy has the ball in the 4th quarter, it's like, okay, his team probably has a chance to win if they get the ball last. And so I think as far as his pursuit with Brady, I've always said this. I think that his losses to Brady are kind of like when Floyd Mayweather beat Canelo Alvarez. There was a younger version of who we see now, multiple time champion across divisions. So I think it's a situation where I don't hold that against Pat as much as other people, but I can see why they would. So for me, like I agree with you, Scott. If he gets to 6 rings, then that's definitely conversation about being the greatest, because a 3-peat definitely changes things. For you to be able to do that in the free agency era in the NFL, but we see guys toss back and forth, it's tough. I mean, even with the Cowboys, you saw Dion play for the Cowboys, then go play for the 49ers. So, it's one of those things. You definitely have to tip your cap, even though that's more so of a team accomplishment. But in terms of catching Brady, I think the pursuit is real. The pursuit is there, but we have to consider the longevity. Brady did it for 20 years. This is year 6 for Pat. Again, he's on a hell of a pace, but this is also like they say, it's a torrid pace. We don't know if he's going to be able to keep this up for 20 years. If he does, and we look up and this motherfucker got 9 rings, then I think it's really a conversation. But no, right now, I think it's just more so the pursuit is real, but he still has a long way to go.
And with the Peyton thing, I think B-Dot hit it right near the head. Peyton was terrible in the playoffs. And Peyton was stunk in the playoffs, but like majority of his time in there. Even that last championship, that is all that defense. The thing that annoys me the most about Super Bowl 41, the Bears lost, I could have accepted it if more Peyton just kicked our ass. I could have accepted it more. Nigga, we got beat by Joseph Dye and Dominic Rhodes.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Like, bro, like, and then they just gave Peyton Super Bowl MVP because they couldn't give it to both of them niggas. Like, that's what blew me. Peyton got picked off by Chris Harris, my nigga. Like, I wake up in cold sweats thinking about that game. Bang, we know you've always said you like to wait till the whole career plays out before you start anointing niggas and things like that. But use your vision goggles here. Do you think there's a path for him to be looked at universally as the GOAT, or are we just setting ourselves up for another LeBron Michael thing?
Nah, I'm not gonna sit up and say that he's not on no path. Hey, I'm not gonna say that shit. He on the right path of being that, because this is unprecedented in NFL, just like what Tom Brady did was unprecedented. I don't know if he could keep this up. And what I mean, not necessarily like him and his talent, but football is a team sport at the end of the day. The biggest question I have around the team of the Kansas City Chiefs is if they could keep this up year after year after year after year. As I said early in the week, the Kansas City Chiefs have played a lot of damn football in the last 5 years. A whole lot. People going to start wanting to get their money. You're going to have to cycle people in. You're going to have to draft well. How long is Andy Reid going to be around? It's a lot of questions. And what could happen is what Dan Marino wish could have happened. And what that is you start off fast, and then if you just fall off at the end, shit, at least I got this. Dan Marino went to one Super Bowl his second year, and he ain't see the Super Bowl since. There could be a possibility let's be real. It could be a real possibility that this could be the last time we see the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, because you never know what could happen in football. Niggas get injured, niggas get traded, niggas get cut, niggas find money in free agency. The NFL is a year after year thing. So is he on that path? Yeah. Could it be he blew his load in the beginning of it? It's a good way to blow your load, shit, when you win this many Super Bowls. No, this ain't no pause, shit. Hey, how many Super Bowls he might have? 3 in a row, shit. Shoot the club up.
Blow his load was crazy. But
I ain't say blow his load on somebody.
Oh man. Shout out to Cameron. By the way, I can't wait to see his freestyle when Jello said that he's a better rapper than that nigga. And I thought about this. I know that we kind of off schedule. Jello's 15 minutes almost up. I don't hear that song on nobody's socials no more.
Yeah, I don't hear it no more.
He might be on minute 12 right now, but
we won't hear that. We won't hear that shit after the All-Star game.
I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked. Bang, perfect point on your last point. That leads into my final storyline. Will the Chiefs be looked at as the best dynasty in NFL history with the three-peat? Now, we know we said all the things about the Patriots. 20-year run, 6 championships. There was a 10-year gap with no championships. They went to the Super Bowl a couple times during that 10 years. 2007, lost to the Giants. 2011, lost to the Giants. But they weren't able to get arguing the pause. It's crazy. They weren't able to get it done. But bang, to your point, I do believe that 10-year, I guess, like retooling phase was needed. And there's a lot of things with the Chiefs that people aren't, talking about as much. You know what happens when Travis Kelce ultimately decides to retire to do shitty Peacock movies? What's going to happen when Andy Reid's like, you know what? I've had it. I'm finna go back home, chill. I've got 4 championship rings, do my thing. That's a big thing too, depending on the roster and the coach and things like that. But if they win on Sunday, they will be the first team in the 59 years of the Super Bowl era of the NFL, which is the only era that counts, because if we count the prior eras, then the Bears are considered title town, as I said weeks ago. We count segregation era titles. Yeah, in the Super Bowl era, it has never been done before. That will put them on a pantheon of their own. Deion Sanders said there's rooms in the Hall of Fame, but there's levels of the rooms in the Hall of Fame. That puts them on a place that's different than the New England Patriots. It's different than the 90s Cowboys. It's different than the 80s Niners or the Steel Curtain Pittsburgh Steelers. They will be in their own room. So, in my personal opinion, I can't say that they would, but they would have a very good arguing point for them. Very good argument. The thing that I stick out why I think the Patriots are still number one is because they had two dynasties. They won 3 championships with a back-to-back in the first go-round, and then won 3 championships in the second go-round with 2 completely different styles. The first 3 championships, you can say that was a team that was built on a great defense and had a good enough offense around it. The final 3, even though they had some number 1 and number 2 ranked defenses during that time, that was more of an offensive type team with the Brady, the Gronks, the Edelmans, and things like that. And even before they won a championship, Aaron Hernandez, as funny as that sounds right now, we're just talking about Aaron Hernandez on the field, they were an offensively more potent team. But I do believe the Chiefs will definitely have an argument if they can get this done. Dante, what do you think a three-peat would do for the Chiefs and these greatest dynasties of all time arguments? And it'll be the first North American three-peat in 23 years since Kobe and Shaq did in 2002.
What it means for me in terms of in historic terms, I think it puts them up there with, not with the Patriots, because the Patriots won double the championship. So I think it's way too early to put them up there with the Patriots, and we need to put more respect on what the Patriots did. But in terms of three-peats, I think this would go down as one of the best three-peats of all time, simply because when you look at how difficult it is to do this in football with the way free agency works and the way teams are built, you really got to tip your cap to this. I think more than anything, this will add more to Andy Reid's legacy as one of the greatest offensive minds or one of the greatest coaches we've ever had. It's fun, funny that he is the all-time win. I believe he's the all-time wins leader for both franchises playing in the Super Bowl. And I think he's helped. I think he's coached to every offensive record for both teams, damn near. So I mean, this is more so one of those games where you see the legacy of Andy Reid being lifted, because he has done so many great things. But in terms of the Chiefs, there have been some great runs in the NFL. In the modern era, I think this would probably put them second in the modern era. But still not in the Patriots ballpark yet, simply because they were dominant for so long. But I know we like to only count Super Bowl victories, but you got to count the AFC championships. They lost 2 to Eli. They lost 1 to.
They lost 2 to Eli.
Yeah, they lost 2 to Eli. They lost 1 to Russell. I was going to say Russell Simmons, Russell Wilson in Seattle.
Who lost to Seattle?
Tom Brady.
When did he lose to Seattle? They beat Seattle. In 2014, they beat Seattle. Remember they didn't get a ball to Marshawn. They lost the three Super Bowl losses they had. Twice to the Giants, 1 to the Eagles.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Lost to the Eagles in the shootout with the Nick Foles shit.
Yeah.
So, you still have those 3 losses, but that's 9 that they went to, G.
It was 10. 10. Remember they lost to, it was 10. They won. No. You're right. They went to 9. My bad. I'm tripping.
Yeah. So you still that's a lot, G. So they're not in their ballpark yet. They like, as much as we want to put them there, and I think that's more so just a product of our generation, and we always want to give people their flowers and call people legends and say you legendary, you the greatest to do it, and like, nigga, no, they not. So it's one of those things where I think they're number 2, but they're not even in the ballpark yet, because it's just so much. It's so much that the Patriots actually accomplished.
Longevity, bro.
Yeah.
Like when they won their first, this is how I always remember the Patriots run. Their first championship was the first time I ever threw a Super Bowl party. I was 13 years old. So they won their first championship, I was 13. When they won their final championship, I was 30. That is a long time right there. Before we go to Bang, shout out to Mike B. One dude, some dude in the chat right now. He's reporting live from the Royal Rumble. Shout out to I'm Not Gonna Hold You squad. Bang, man, what you think three-peat will do for the Chiefs?
Shit, it would make them one of the greatest organizations of all time. It'd put them in that conversation. But as far as dynasty goes, I wouldn't put it as like one of the greatest. It'd be definitely a great moment. But to me, you got, of course, the Patriots. But I'm still putting I'm at least putting the San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, the 49ers in the 80s ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. Because of what they did for that whole entire decade. And then they were still good. And that they got a chance to beat them, but no, I'm still putting them ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. But they definitely ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. I will say that they definitely did the Dallas Cowboys. But they will be able to say they did something that no other franchise have done. So they would have their own special place. Like you was talking about Hall of Fame rooms. They have a room, though. They have a room that they could go to. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, they could go kick it because they got their own special room. But they still got to compete against those other dynasties.
Definitely. That concludes my 5 top storylines heading to Super Bowl week. There's no show on Monday because I will be in New Orleans. But next Friday, when we do our Super Bowl preview show, we're going to give our picks and go more in depth on the actual game, man.
Triple double hat trick, I know the code too. Ice trade, go for trade, yeah we cold too. Getting paper on these player haters, old news. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm